Hello everybody, this is the Grade 10 Theory Lesson Unit 10b, and today's topic is transposing by interval. So transposition, if you remember back in grade 9, we learned how to do this skill, and it's going to be the same this year, except this year, instead of being told to transpose into a new key, for example, which we still potentially would be doing, we are going to be learning how to transpose based on the interval itself. And the reason one of the reasons for that is because this year we're no longer just dealing with major tonalities. We also have minor tonalities to think about. So instead of saying, oh, transpose this into key of, if it was in a minor key, for example, oh, make this into a major key. So there's a little bit more, whoops, sorry about that, could be involved. So the easier way to go about doing this is simply by doing it by interval. And that way we're maintaining the same relationship within the tonalities. So transposition, again, this is a common technique that's used in various scenarios. And, for example, if a person is singing a piece of music and the arrangement is in a key that is not really a comfortable key or a comfortable range for the vocalist, a composer can quickly transpose and place it into a key that is a little bit more suitable for the vocalist. So as an example of when this can take place. In the band world, for our intents and purposes, typically this will take place if there's a transcription of a famous piece, for example, we'll transpose it into a key that's more familiar to band instruments. So if it's originally was in the key of B major, it may get transposed into the key of B flat major for wind ensembles, as an example. Okay, so transposition, again, it's a very useful technique. It's used by many people in a lot of different scenarios. So we're going to look at how to do it by interval right now. So interval transposition is moving the music into a specific distance as defined by an interval. As with other methods of transposition, the first note and key of the piece play important roles. The key signature can now be major or minor, as we just mentioned, and this will affect how the first note is named. So we have to be careful with this determination. So we're going to have a couple of steps that we're going to follow as we've outlined below. So the very first step we need to do, here's our first example. We've got a piece of music, is look at the key signature, and we need to determine what key we're in. So we look at the key signature, and we know, based on what we've learned in previous lessons, we have two possible answers that we can use for this key. So with 3 sharps, I know I can either be dealing with A major, or I could be dealing with F sharp minor. So how do we know which one we're dealing with? Well, again, based on what we know about minor keys, for example, if we see pitches, we know that there are 3 different types of minor keys. We have our natural minors, our melodic minors, and our harmonic minors. And the melodic minor and the harmonic minor are typically used more frequently than the natural minor. And of even those two, the harmonic minor scale is used almost exclusively in minor tonalities. And what that means is that the notes that are within that key are non-diatonic in some cases. So if it's a melodic minor scale, the 6th and the 7th notes are going to be raised by a semitone and lowered by a semitone on their way down. So that's something to look for. Or if we're dealing with a harmonic minor key, we would have a raised 7th, and that raised 7th would maintain its established pitch throughout the entire piece. So if we'd assumed for just a moment we are in the key of F sharp minor, well, what is the 6th note and what is the 7th note of F sharp minor? The 6th and the 7th notes respectively are D and E. So we should be seeing either a D sharp, but probably more commonly an E sharp in this piece, which would be the raised 7th. And we're looking through here and we're not actually seeing it. We do have an E flat and we do have an E natural, but those are chromatic passing tones. There's actually not really enough evidence because, again, we've got if we look somewhere else in this piece, we've got an E over here and a D over here. There's no alteration there. We've got the bar line, right? So we've eliminated what was taking place here. Now we're back to reflective of what the key. So we don't have enough evidence to determine if it's a minor key. The other thing we can look for, and the more obvious clue to look for, is the starting pitch and the ending pitch. And in more cases than not, the ending pitch is the one to really look at. And if you notice in this question, we are ending on an A. And that's a pretty strong indication based on the evidence that we have. There are no altered 6th or 7th pitches. We're ending on a tonic, a tonic of a major key. So we're going to go with the key of A major in this case. Again, so here's our rationale. We have no ending, the ending note's in A, and we have no altered 6th or 7th degrees. So we've established the key. So the next step we need to do is decide which degree the piece starts on, and we need to mark the example. So here we are, we've established we're in the key of A major, and you can go ahead and maybe make that note, which wouldn't be a bad idea, because then I can, again, revert back to what we're solving for. So the first note we've got is a C sharp. And just like we did in grade 9, which note of A major is C sharp? And the answer is, it's the third note. So we're going to go ahead and put the number 3 underneath there. The B is a 2, the A is a 1, and recall from last year, we just got to go ahead and fill in the blank. So regardless of what the octave is, if it's an F sharp, it's still the 6th note of A major, even though, it could be in, and again, any of these pitches could be in different locations, but we're, again, regardless of how the melody interacts, we're still thinking and referring to the degrees of that key. So an F sharp is going to be the 6th note, whether it's down here in this first bass or if it's up here on the top line. It's still the 6th pitch. So we go through, and again, remembering from last year, if we label a pitch as the flat 5, again, that's in relation to the key, so it has no bearing on, it's going to be an actual flat. Well, in this case, actually, it is a flat because there is no E sharp to worry about, so we would have a natural. But in here, it's a regular 5th, right? So it's diatonic again to the key. So that's what we've done in our second step. So we go ahead and we label all these notes. Last year in grade 9, I have seen it on most of the years where students they skip this step. It's a very important step to make sure that you're doing this, because this is exactly what we're actually doing when we say transposing by interval. We're actually determining what the original intervals are, and this is our guide. This is how we're going to solve the rest of the question. If we don't have this information, it's going to be very difficult to get an accurate transcription, which is what we want to do when we transpose. So use the tonic of the key, find the interval above or below as asked in the question. Okay, we've done that. Fourth step, write the first note of the new melody, making sure you've transposed in the correct direction above or below and in the correct clef. So that was a piece of information that I didn't look at originally or didn't mention originally. So let's just go back and double check. So transpose the following example down a minor 6th into the bass clef. Okay, so there we have it. Now, a minor 6th, now this is where we need to, again, reflect back on what we're dealing with in terms of where pitches are located and the relationship to the grand staff. And this is an important detail that we need to make note of. So the first note is a C sharp in the original key. But really what we want to establish in the original tonality is the fact that we have a C sharp. It is the 3rd note of A major. So a minor 6th below the original key. So in step 3, just to go back for a quick moment, tonic of the key, A major, interval below as asked in the question. So here's our A, which we've established as the tonic. So next question, what's the major 3rd above? Because again, we're going to solve for, as we learned in our last lesson, solving below a given pitch, a little bit tricky. It's easier to think of the inversion and then solve for that. So a major 3rd above an A is a C sharp, and then we're going to take that C sharp and bring it down the octave. So a minor 6th below the new key is in the key of C sharp major. And again, we determined we're in a major key, so that's what it will be. So C sharp major is going to be, now, based on the determination that we made in this previous question, again, we're using this as the tonic, and we determined that this will be the establishing point. So A finds its way over here. So we're still in the same clef, we're still maintaining that exact same relationship. And then we're drawing our minor 6 below, and so we're ending up on the C sharp, which is actually middle C, C sharp. This is very important, okay, to make note of. The fourth step, once we've done that, is to write the first note of the new melody, making sure you've transposed in the correct direction above or below and in the correct pitch. So remember that it was C sharp. That was the note based on the key. However, in the new key, if we're now we've transposed, so now we're into C sharp major. So we need to go back to our numbers and recall that we're actually starting on the 3rd degree of, in this case now, it's C sharp major. So what is the 3rd note of C sharp major? And that is why, when you see here, we've drawn our bass clef, we've got our C sharp major key signature, but you notice this note way up here, it's an E sharp. And this is what actually our starting pitch is going to be. And yes, you do have to draw the ledger lines because we are transposing by interval. And this is a little bit different than simply transposing into a new key. We are being asked, when we transpose, to maintain a very specific distance from the original starting pitch. So, yes, I know it might be a bit of a pain because you got a whole bunch of ledger lines to draw in this question, but you absolutely must do that because we are being asked to transpose by interval. We are not being asked to transpose into a new key in which we can determine, if you recall from grade 9, we had a plethora of options. We could say, oh, okay, well, I don't feel like drawing all these ledger lines. I'm just going to draw it all on the staff. You were fine to do that before when it simply said transpose into a new key, but because we are being specified and directed to transpose by a very specific interval, we absolutely must maintain that relationship as we go into our new clef and our new key. So the fifth step, to go back for a moment here, is to write out the remaining melody, maintaining the scale and the interval relationship. And then the last step is to adjust any non-diatonic accidentals, as we should have noted in our original determination. So, new key of C sharp major, starting on the third note. Yep, it has to be up here above the staff. So again, here we go. We go through our new notes, maintaining that same interval relationship. There's our non-diatonic pitch, the flat 5, which in this case is the F natural. Again, that's a flat 5 in relation to the key that we're in, right? Sorry, that should be a G natural in relation to the key we're in, not an F natural. So G natural, and then going up to a G sharp, all the way up to an A, and then back down again to the C as the new key that we're in. So here we go. This is what we just kind of looked at, and here's a little bit more information. So take note that the distance that you transpose a melody has no effect on the major or the minor tonality. So a minor melody can be transposed by a major third, but this does not all of a sudden make it a major melody. It's still going to be minor. All we've done is change by the interval. And again, this is what we're talking about. Maintaining that relationship is critical. They are two completely different pieces of information, and they do not affect one another. So therefore, if a piece is major before and it is transposed, it will still sound major, even if it's been after it's been transposed, whether the interval of the transposition is major, minor, augmented, or diminished. It will have no bearing on the final tonality. So we have a couple of questions to go through here. I'm only going to do one. These are quite involved questions. So I'll just simply do the first bit, and maybe actually I'll start the second part of this because I want to highlight how I would like all of you to do this. So here we go. Transpose the following musical examples as directed. Okay. So we're asked to take this melody and bring it down a perfect fourth into the bass clef. So, first step we need to do, as always, is establish the original key. So we have two possible answers. We could be in the key of E flat major. We could also be in the key of C minor. So let's look at some other clues. Our starting pitch. If we were to be in the key of E flat major, we're starting on an E flat. Okay. Where do we end? Also on an E flat. Okay, this is looking fairly promising for our key to be E flat major. But to rule out any possibility that it could be C minor, again, if it was C minor, we'd have raised sixths and sevenths. So we should have some A naturals and some B naturals if we are in that key. I see a G flat and I see a D sharp, but that's not enough evidence, and those aren't actually the notes at all that I'm worried about. So I'm going to go with the key and determine that this is in the key of E flat major. So I'm just going to make note of that here. E flat major. And my next step to do is go through and number all of these notes. So E flat is the first note, F is the second, G is the third, A flat's the fourth, we're back down to the third. Now in this case we've got a flat 3, okay, and back to the second, third, seventh, sixth, seventh, raised seventh, tonic. Okay, so there we go. We've numbered all of our notes relative to the key of E flat major. Great. The next thing we need to do is now look at what this question is actually asking us to do. So what we've taken care of first we have actually not even really answered the question. We're just preparing ourselves to get ready to answer this question. So we're asked to draw or to transpose this melody down a perfect fifth into the bass clef. So first thing I'm going to do is draw a bass clef. And the next piece of information that I need to deal with is the fact that it says go down a perfect fifth into the bass clef. So down, when I see it says go down, immediately, again, think inversion and do the opposite. Go up a perfect fourth. Remember that fourths or perfect intervals are going to maintain their perfect quality regardless of when they're inverted. So perfect fifth down means really a perfect fourth above. So in other words, let's go back to E flat major. What's the fourth note of E flat major? E flat, F, G, A flat. So the key of A flat major is going to be our new key that we're going to be in. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my A flat major key signature, my 4 flats, and I'll go ahead and put my time signature in because, again, with these questions, all of the details that you have in the original question, you should be keeping those and copying those at the end. So I'm actually going to just get ahead of myself a little bit, and I'm going to add all of my bar lines. So when it comes time to writing this question, I'm pretty much ready to go. Okay, so we've got the new key established, we've got our bass clef established, but we still have one more thing to do, and that is determine what interval we're dealing with in regards to where things are located. So I'm going to draw a middle C here, and I know middle C is found below the treble clef. And my first pitch is an E flat, and I'm going to go down a perfect fifth into the key of A flat major. And again, I'm going to bring that A flat and I'm going to drop it down a full octave. So in this case, because I have E as my established pitch, and the A flat would have been up here, which would have been on the second line, or second space rather. If I bring that down a full octave, I'm actually going to be 2 ledger lines, if I should maintain that one, 2 ledger lines below, which means when I bring it down into the bass clef, remember, middle C in the bass clef is still the line or the first ledger line above the staff, which means that first pitch A is actually going to be right there on the top line of the bass clef. There's my starting pitch. So I've basically taken that and I've brought it down to where it needs to be. So now what I need to do is fill in the blanks and bring in the rest of the details. So first pitch, again, A flat, so then we're going to have a B flat. Remember, now we're in a new key of A flat major. We're going to be drawing our first note of as the tonic of the key of A flat major, and then we're going to go from there. So third note, C, there's our D flat, back to our C, we've got a flat 3, in this case it's going to be a C flat. I'm going to draw my stems, quarter note, stem down. Remember, stems are down in this case because we're into our new clef. So there's my C flat. Back down to the second pitch. So there's my B flat. Wait a second. Nope, that's right. No, what have I done here? Hold on a minute here. I've mislabeled these. That's what I've done. That's Mr. Benning's fault. Yep, that's the mistake. Okay, so this one should have been the first note. Right, okay, so that makes more sense. I just misnumbered my last pitch there. So this we go G here, and there's an F. And draw my nice long stems here. Make sure I connect them with a beam. Back to the 7th pitch, which is going to be a G. And then, again, diatonic, it's still going to be a G natural, which means it's still going to have to be raised by a 7th. So there's my G sharp. And then I'm ending on my tonic, which is my A. Connect those last two with a beam. And there we have it. So there we go. There we've taken that piece of music, we've transposed it down by a very specific interval into a new clef, and there we have it. Now, I'm going to show just the first starting pitch for this new, in this question here. So when we're going these questions, so down a perfect fifth in the bass clef, and then up a major 7th into the treble clef, use the original question to do these variations that are taking place. Okay, so still in the treble clef, we actually haven't changed what we're doing in this question. So up a minor 7th into the treble clef. Well, we're still going to stay in the treble clef. What's the 7th note of E flat major? And the answer is D natural. But that's a major 7th. What's a minor 7th above an E flat? And the answer is D flat. So the new key is going to be D flat major, just like we're maintaining that major and tonality in this case. So I need to have my flat. So battle ends, and down goes. So there's my new key signature, and again up a minor seventh. So I've gone, basically I'm going to be starting. So my starting pitch in this question, because I'm starting on the tonic of E flat major, I'm also going to be starting on the tonic of D flat major, and because it's saying go up a minor seventh, and I'm using this as my original pitch, which basically means, again, I'm just going to be going right up. So there's my starting pitch on the D flat. Okay, so then the rest of this question would follow exactly the same for all of these other ones. Okay, so there we have some questions. I'll leave the rest up to all of you. Just be aware again, as you're going through these, check for, again, these questions can be major, they can be minor. So that's the first determination going through. If you do happen to make that mistake of it should have been minor, it should have been major, in some cases it's actually going to work out the same, but not always. So just be really cognizant of that and aware. So there's, again, a couple more questions to go through on this. But there we have it, everybody. There is transposing by interval. And we'll see you on the next lesson, which will be band instrument transposition. So some more transposition, but with using different instruments rather than just intervals.